Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a really terrifying scenario of how a regional conflict could spiral into a global catastrophe. And it's all based on events that are unfolding as we speak. All right, so let's just dive right in. Picture this. It all kicks off with one major event. A massive Israeli strike hits Iranian oil fields. But Iran's response? It was something nobody saw coming. And it wasn't just aimed at Israel. It was aimed at the entire world. So Iran doesn't just hit back at Israel. No, they attack Qatar. And you might be thinking, Qatar, why them? Well, here's why it's a massive deal. That tiny nation provides a staggering 20% of the entire world's liquefied natural gas. 1 in 5 homes, factories, and power plants across Europe and Asia get their energy from a country that is now a war zone. Now, this wasn't just some random act of revenge. Oh no. This is a cold, calculated strategy. The thinking in Tehran seems to be, if we can't win this war on the battlefield, then we will hold the world's economy hostage by attacking the one thing it can't live without: energy. So at the same time the world's energy is on the brink, Israel's cities are getting hammered by a devastating new kind of weapon. Cluster warheads are specifically designed to beat air defenses. Think of it less like a single missile and more like a giant shotgun blast from the sky, unleashing hundreds of smaller bombs. It makes it almost impossible for a system like the Iron Dome to stop everything. So you'd think, right, with your biggest city under fire like that, you'd be looking for any way out, any off-ramp you can find. But they're not. And to understand why there's no push for de-escalation, we have to look past the usual geopolitics and into something much deeper, a motivator that's often overlooked. And this is where we really get to the heart of the matter. It's a concept called eschatology. For some really influential religious leaders in the region, all this destruction isn't a tragedy they're mourning. They're actually welcoming it. They truly believe this chaos is a required step to fulfill ancient prophecies. For them, the goal isn't peace, it's the apocalypse. Okay, so here's the crucial takeaway. Neither side is just trying to win a battle here. They're both playing for keeps, chasing these grand strategies for total victory, with absolutely no room for any kind of compromise. Analysts call these maximalist objectives. And this slide just lays it out so clearly, right? You can see the clash of these two completely all-or-nothing mindsets. On one side, the goal is basically to take Iran apart as a state. On the other side, the strategy is to cause so much pain to the global economy that everybody goes down together. So let's drill down on one of those US and Israeli strategies for a second: Balkanization. See, Iran isn't one monolithic country. It's a mosaic of different ethnic groups. The whole idea here is to pour fuel on those internal divisions, fund rebel movements, and basically fracture the nation into a bunch of weak little competing states that could never pose a threat again. So let's look at how this thing can spiral out of control. Because let's be real, a regional war with stakes this high, it almost never stays regional. There are a few very clear ways this goes global. A lot of military planners are really worried that a ground invasion is pretty much inevitable if you're aiming for total victory. And it would probably start small, with a limited objective, like taking Karg Island to cut off almost all of Iran's oil. The problem is, you can't hold that island without securing the coast. And that means you need a full-scale ground invasion. It's a classic case of mission creep straight into a disaster. Okay, but this is where the situation goes from dangerous to potentially world-ending. When other countries are forced to pick a side, especially when one of them has nukes. Yeah, and here's the absolute nightmare scenario that keeps defense officials up at night. If Saudi Arabia gets hit hard enough that they have to formally declare war on Iran, that action triggers a mutual defense pact they have with Pakistan. And just like that, you've got a nuclear-armed country legally obligated to jump into the fight. The entire game changes. But wait, there's another fuse leading to a global explosion. See, Iran has this incredible leverage. It can shut down not one, but 2 of the planet's most critical shipping choke points at the exact same time: the Strait of Hormuz for oil and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which handles a full 12% of all global trade going to the Suez Canal. Look, this kind of economic strangulation, it's basically an act of war against, well, everyone. Countries like Japan and South Korea are almost completely dependent on that energy. Their economies would collapse in weeks. They would have to send in their navies, not because they want to, but because if they don't, their entire countries shut down. It's pure survival.
But maybe the single biggest domino to fall, the thing that might have sealed everyone's fate, didn't even happen on a battlefield. It was one assassination that might have just slammed the door on any chance for peace.
The one person who could have actually negotiated a ceasefire, the guy with the authority and the pragmatic mindset to find an off-ramp, he's gone. Ali Larjani wasn't just another politician. He was coordinating Iran's entire war effort. And critically, he was the one guy who could have actually made a deal stick. There's this old saying from gang warfare that just explains this catastrophic mistake perfectly. You never ever kill the rival gang leader. Why? Because he's the only one with the authority to call his guys off and end the war. By taking out Larijani, the Israelis might have guaranteed this war has to be fought to the bitter, bitter end. I mean, this is poli-sci 101. When you take out a pragmatic leader during a war, you create a power vacuum. And guess who fills it? It's always filled by a hardliner, someone more extreme, more violent, and with zero interest in compromise. Any hope for a diplomatic solution? Poof, gone. Okay, so after all that, you might be thinking, why does a fight thousands of miles away matter to me? Well, here's why. Because the forces being unleashed over there, they don't respect borders. The fallout from this isn't some abstract, far-off problem. It's direct, it's tangible, and it will hit you right where you live. You'll feel it every time you fill up your car, you'll see it when your heating bill skyrockets, the supply chains we all depend on will start to snap, and you'll see empty shelves in stores. And the risk of a real global conflict, bigger than anything since World War II, becomes terrifyingly real. And here's the truly terrifying part of all this. Nobody is looking for the exit. Why? Because too many of the powerful people involved, from religious zealots who see this as destiny to strategic planners who see a once-in-a-generation opportunity, they actually want this to keep going. Look, none of this is set in stone. It's not inevitable. But the path we are on right now, it's being paved by some very powerful people who actually benefit from all this chaos. The only thing that can really change that course is a public that is paying attention, that understands the stakes and demands a different way forward. So if you're watching all of this as closely as we are, comment global down below and make sure you follow so you don't miss our next explainer breaking down the risks that are shaping our world. Because honestly, understanding what's happening is the first step to doing something about it. Thanks for watching.